home. Stuff for your car. Stuff just for fun. And plenty of stuff for your belly.
I'm so full.
For a complete list of our auction items, log on to yourfortdodge.com. Don't miss the Fall Harvest of Savings radio auction Tuesday, September 22nd from 2 till 5 on your favorite Alpha Media station.
Hiring can be challenging, but ZipRecruiter makes it fast and easy. We talked to Monica Starks, who needed to hire for her company, GS Group.
As the owner of a construction company, finding the right people is a very difficult task. So I use ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter finds the right people for your job and actively invites them to apply.
With ZipRecruiter, we've hired everyone from accountants to project managers to field scientists.
And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
When all the lights go out, my dad has to go.
Taylor's dad is a line worker at the local electric cooperative. What does Daddy always say?
Be safe.
And what else? Always?
Always look good.
That's right. A power line can be closer than it appears. So when you're raising an auger or the bed of a grain truck, stay at least 10 feet away from power lines and poles. Use a spotter to be safe and
always look up.
Iowa's locally owned electric cooperatives want you to be safe and alert in the field this fall.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
That's right. This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge, and our guest is Deputy Sheriff Luke Fleener, who's running to be our next sheriff. How you doing, Luke?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having me today.
That's quite all right. So you think you're going to go on down the rodeo this weekend?
Well, I better check with the person that runs the show at my house and see what she says.
Your wife's a rodeo fan, isn't she?
Yeah. We kind of grew up in that Western lifestyle. We have horses, and the kids are naturally into that. My wife was a barrel racer by heart, and
she was.
I did some rough stock things early on in my younger rodeo career, and then I ended up team roping. And as I got older, and now I'm just kind of taking care of the kids.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we don't stay young forever.
I know. I feel that way sometimes.
I wish I could tell you the other way, but I really can't. So, Luke, you've been with the Sheriff's Department how long?
Just over 25 years. I started in July of 1995.
25 years.
Yep.
And before that, you were doing what?
I spent 5 years before that. I worked for 3 years for the police department and a year and a half in Hamilton County.
As a deputy sheriff?
As a deputy. And then I came back here, and I was always kind of drawn to the Webster County Sheriff's Office. Even back when I worked at the police department, I thought that was the place that I really wanted to be. And 25 years later, here I am.
How old are you, Luke?
52.
So you'd, if you were elected sheriff and kept the job, you'd have many years of service yet to come.
Absolutely. Plenty of things to accomplish. I have a lot of goals, and I look forward to accomplishing each and every one of them as the time goes by, starting next January.
Well, talk about a few of them.
Well, I have a lot of short-term goals. I think the biggest obstacle that our department will have is creating an environment that people want to join the profession of law enforcement. In today's world, in this environment, that's not a real becoming profession to get into. There's not a lot of people lining up that say, I want to be a police officer.
I'm glad you brought that up. There has been, I see what the police, not here in Webster County necessarily, but I see what the police around the country are going through.
Yeah.
And my hat's off to them, but my God, why would anybody want to do that job?
Yeah. So I think that's a big obstacle, trying to recruit people into your department and say, this is the place that we want you to work. And I think that starts with having some incentives, whether it be certified officers get a pay increase of something, or they start at a higher scale, whatever that is, to create an opportunity to get those certified officers to come to your department as opposed to somewhere else.
You know, right now, a town or somebody has to sponsor you to the law enforcement academy.
Sure.
Other states, and this doesn't have anything really to do with the office you're running for, but other states just have a law enforcement academy.
Right. And
people go there at their own expense, and they go looking for a job after that.
Right.
Would that be a change you would favor in the state of Iowa?
Yeah, I think that's a big undertaking just because of where that's located and how that will work. I know there was some talk about having a regional training center that would certify people similar to what happens in Waterloo or Sioux City. They had some training setups there that would do the same thing. But it's been in Des Moines at the ILEA for so many years that, I think that's a big step for administration to take, that we're going to branch away from what we already know.
I'd be surprised if it happened, but I always thought it was a good idea.
Yeah. In 1989, I went there and paid my way through as a part-time officer in Dayton as my very first job.
And Dayton didn't sponsor you?
No, we had to pay for our own way through there.
Okay.
It was much cheaper then. I had to work weekends when I got home from the academy, which was really awful. But I survived and I made it through. And the whole purpose of me getting certified as fast as I possibly could was because I knew that an agency would hire you much quicker if you were certified.
Yeah. How many weeks is it to get through the academy now?
I think it's pushing 18 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Well, I guess.
Back then it was 10 or 12, I believe. So,
well, that's still, we do need trained officers. There's
absolutely.
No doubt. I'm just 18 months. Or not 18 months, but 18 weeks. That's a good long time.
Yeah. Some of the things that are important for me is training is huge in my background. I've spent the last 12 and a half years training police officers and firemen and EMS and first responders across the United States on response to active shooter situations. And I've seen firsthand when you place law enforcement officers in a stressful environment, ammunition rounds, stress inoculation training is what we call that. The quick decision-making process that they have to go through in their mind can be hampered by the lack of repetition in that environment. I think it's important that we expose our officers as much training as we possibly can, because in the real world, as we have seen, split-second decisions is what sometimes determines life or death.
And by God, how do you make a decision like that in that amount of time?
It's all based on training. They have to be exposed to it.
I mean, your life could be threatened. I mean, your life might end right in the next split second, or the perpetrators might end.
Right.
And sometimes the wrong decision is made. That's a hell of a thing.
Absolutely. And to take it a step further, after that decision is made, prosecutors and attorneys and grand juries have days and minutes and weeks to look at your snap decision.
Yeah, exactly.
They have a long time to analyze what you did in a blink of an eye.
Everybody's got a camera. It's all over social media.
Yeah.
The wrong angle could be caught leading to the wrong conclusion.
Yeah. So training's huge in law enforcement. We have to make sure that we continue to train and be ready for anything that we could be encountered with.
In talking with Sheriff Stubbs and Sheriff Michelson before him, meth was a terrible problem. I don't hear about it as much as I used to. I know there was an attempt to crack down on meth producers. Of course, they moved around a lot, and there were a lot of challenges to that.
Right.
And I'm sure that we still have meth users and makers in Webster County, but is it as big a problem as it was?
Well, we don't hear about it as much because it's not manufactured anymore. We used to have the problem with anhydrous and meth labs being developed by the Nazi method, is what that was called. When the Sudafed
Nazi meth.
Yeah, when the Sudafed laws went into effect, cracked down on the ability to purchase Sudafed, which is the key ingredient in methamphetamine. The super labs from Mexico started on a great production, and now 99% of our methamphetamine here locally comes straight from Mexico. It's trucked up here, vanned up here, muled up here,
Really?
weekly. It's not uncommon for us in the narcotic world where I work each and every day to encounter substantial amounts that we're recovering now, where years ago it was unheard of to say, we seize a pound. That used to be unheard of. Now that's not uncommon. There's just so much of it. Yeah. And the prices of it are down.
Yeah.
So as supply, the supply is there and the price goes down, it just floods in.
A great book, ladies and gentlemen, to read on this very issue is Meth Land by Nick Redding. People up north remember the name Redding, people around St. Joe, Wesley in there somewhere. Nick Redding's dad was a very talented man and moved down to St. Louis. Nick Redding has no direct connection to Iowa other than his dad, but he did know about Iowa and the meth problem. So he spent quite a time studying what happened in Olwine, Iowa.
Right.
Olwine's a smaller town than we are. They had just a terrible meth problem.
Yep.
Just terrible. And the entire book is about the efforts of medical people, law enforcement people, to stop the meth production there and to show the effects of meth on people in Olwine.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
It's hugely addictive. The people that we deal with day in and day out say it's 1,000 times harder than trying to quit smoking for people that have done that in the past. Along with the addiction is the withdrawals that they go through, similar to people that are addicted to opioids, whether that's hydros, Oxycontin, whatever that is. They go through the same withdrawals. So unfortunately, a lot of our crime rates driven by illegal narcotics. They're dependent on that. They start to lose money, they lose their jobs, and then the next thing you know, they're stealing from working people to pay for that addiction because they just have to have it.
or dealing worse, and they get caught and sent to prison for how many years.
Right. Yeah.
It's just not a good outcome, no matter where it is. Luke Fleener is our guest. He's running for Webster County Sheriff. I took the Citizens Academy course again here last fall, I think. And a young officer from the police department and a young officer from the sheriff's department came over to talk about online child sex predators, which is frightening to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked to hear some of their stories.
Right.
I didn't even know we had that sort of department in law enforcement in Webster County.
Yeah, we currently have a cyber crime unit, and there's a detective from the police department and a detective from the sheriff's office, and they devote most 90% of their time to working cases that involve sex crimes. It's
against children or other types of
primarily it's child pornography type investigations, and they work in the dark world of the internet. And it's amazing to me the amount of things that they uncover and can find, and the cases that are generated by that world of people that are dealing in that environment. And they do a very good job at it. And unfortunately, it's a need that we have.
Well, that's a terrible thing to hear. And if you were elected sheriff, would you devote more resources to that effort? Or
yeah, I think there's a fine line between what resources you have and where you put them. As I said before, I think narcotic enforcement is important because that's what's driving our crime rate. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, the cyber crime unit does a very good job. In a perfect world, if we had unlimited resources, we could conquer all those feats.
Sure.
So I think you have to go in and balance it. Where can we put our people that affect the safety of the citizens of the county the best? How can we make it most effective as a department? And then you just kind of drive in that direction.
Are you satisfied with the sheriff's department budget as it is right now?
Well, I think as we sit here today, I think it's satisfactory. As we move forward, obviously, I hope there's room for improvement, things that we can do better. Courthouse security, I think there's measures that we can take there to ensure the safety of not only the citizens that visit there, but the employees that work inside that building. I think that's a growing trend across the state of Iowa, that buildings like that need to have some sort of security element there, whatever that may be, and it may come in phases. A lot of that is dependent upon budgets and what they can afford, what we can't afford. So it's a give and take process, and I'm willing to work my way through that.
Some people are disturbed that we have a open carry law here in Iowa. I have an open carry permit, but I never carry a gun. I just have it out of principle because I believe in the freedom to carry a gun.
Absolutely. Has
there been any abuse of our open carry law in Webster County that you know of?
You know, I haven't seen any, and I haven't really heard about that. I think the right to protect yourself and carry a firearm when in a legal way where it can be legally done, I think is important. One of the loopholes I think that we have in our weapons permit policy is that you can go online and get a weapon permit. You get the certificate, you bring it into the sheriff's office, and we give you that weapons permit sent to you in a couple of weeks. What I'm starting to hear, for even when the classes that I do myself, is there's people that take the class, get the permit, but aren't confident enough or comfortable enough to carry a weapon with them, concealed in their purse, on their person, for their own safety, where legal, just because they haven't had enough use of that, whatever particular weapon is. And I'm fortunate enough that Jesse Green, who's running for Senate this year.
Jesse's a good man.
Yeah, we've talked, and we're trying to work together on introducing some sort of bill next year that would offer people that go through the process and get their weapon permit a tax credit if they go to a local law enforcement agency that's willing to provide some extra training, whether that's 30 hours, 40 hours, whatever. And that is essentially hands-on. This is how you take it apart. This is how it works. Give them that person-to-person training that so many people need and desire, I think, to feel comfortable carrying a concealed weapon to protect themselves. And as we saw in Texas last year at the Freeway Church,
God, that was terrible.
When people are comfortable and accurate and are capable with a concealed weapon, they can stop bad people that are doing harm to people.
That was a retired law enforcement officer, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody to do that at a church is grotesque.
Absolutely. But that's the world we live in now.
It is.
You just have to be prepared.
No respect. Nothing is sacred. I just, there's something about a church shooting, that shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, where those black people were killed. And the next day in the paper, there was all these beatific Christian people smiling. And then there was this hateful little demon who was the perpetrator in the next picture. And the contrast couldn't be more stark.
Yeah. It's unfortunately, it's the world we live in. It's been subdued lately a little bit because of the COVID. There's not a lot of public gatherings. But as our system continues to evolve and get used to dealing what this COVID problem is, whether we have a vaccine coming or not, I think that problem will never go away, where people take an opportunity of a gathering to cause harm to people.
Does Webster County have any educational classes like you just described?
No, I know that there's firearms instructors that are willing to put those on. Myself and one of the DCI agents have our own training company where we provide weapon permit training, a 3-hour class, but we don't do any hands-on. And I think that's where the loophole is. And I've heard it from friends and family that have weapons permit and they're just not comfortable with carrying it. And they just need somebody to show them this is the proper grip, this is the proper way to handle it, this is how you take it apart, this is how you load it, unload it, and the right holster and why you should or shouldn't put it where it is. And then I think once you get comfortable with it, it's no different than the way we are as law enforcement officers. We carry 100% of the time for the most part, and we're comfortable because we're used to having that with us.
You know, I went out to the service many years ago, and I remember getting firearms training in the military. Of course, that was entirely different. I remember this old sergeant, he got up in front of us, said, the first thing you got to know about a gun, it has one purpose, and that's to kill. And I never forgot that.
Absolutely.
And I have enjoyed using weapons over the many, many years. I've been a pheasant hunter in the past, duck hunter, all that sort of thing. But when I taught kids how to handle weapons, that's the first thing I told them. This is not a toy.
Right.
This is not something you can forget, and point it anywhere you want. You have to be in control of your weapon at all times and know where that barrel is. And if you remember those things, you're fine. Really. I mean, you just have to respect the weapon.
Absolutely.
And appreciate the weapon. That's all.
Yep.
Luke Fleener is our guest. I'm going to give you a few minutes here to sell yourself, Luke. Why should you be the next Webster County Sheriff?
Sure. Well, I think it's important that the voters of Webster County take the next month very seriously on their deciding process on who to elect to be the next sheriff. They need to consider themselves the hiring committee to fill this vacancy. So doing your homework's important. Who has the experience? Who has the leadership to lead our department into the future? 30 years of experience has given me a lot of experience in the law enforcement world. I've worked 12 plus years as an investigator. I've worked every crime imaginable in our community, from homicides, rapes, burglaries, and of course narcotics, both prosecuted state and federally. I think that says something that I'm prepared to handle whatever may come down our road in the next 4 years as the person in charge of our department, and to help the deputies when they need that guidance. Leadership wise, I've led our TAC team unit for the last 10 years, 8 of those as the training coordinator, in the last 6 as the team commander of our tactical unit, 20 of the bravest men and women in law enforcement that train for high risk opportunities and calls that we have to deal with in our society. And I think that proves that I'm prepared to help our department into the future.
Were you in on that terrible police officer shooting in Rockwell City a few years ago?
I was.
Oh, God. Roger Porter talked about that at the Citizens Academy. You could tell he was affected by it.
Yeah, I was actually the team leader that night. I was in charge of our team when my friend and teammate Jamie Bunting was killed by the horrible person inside that house. And it was a
senseless,
huge blow to our team and to law enforcement in general. And every year when September 13th rolls around, it's a reminder of, that we need to be prepared for anything that could happen.
Yeah, gosh, I hate to even think about it. But anyway, Luke Fleener has been our guest. Thank you for coming in, especially on such short notice.
Sure,
Luke.
anytime.
And, if you go to the rodeo this weekend, have a good time, buddy.
I'll do it.
All right. Luke Fleener's been our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Are you experiencing financial hardship and finding yourself pressured of owing the IRS back taxes? The experienced professionals at Allied Tax Relief can relieve you from IRS collections. Most importantly, negotiate your tax debt. Here's Marie, a pleased client of Allied Tax Relief.
My hours were cut in half at work, and the IRS was threatening to collect $27,000 I owed them. I contacted Allied Tax Relief for help. They were able to put a stop to the IRS collections. Once they negotiated my debt, I walked away paying only $700 to the IRS.
Especially during these times of need, Allied Tax Relief is able to negotiate various Fresh Start programs to relieve you of your IRS tax debt. Call Allied Tax Relief now. 800-299-2006 for a free consultation. Use this pandemic situation to your advantage. Now is the best time to get IRS forgiveness. Call today, 800-299-2006. This call could save you thousands. That's 800-299-2006. 800-299-2006.
Livestock producers demand soybean meal that delivers superior nutrition. Are those the soybeans you're growing? Find out with the help of the United Soybean Board Soybean Sampling Program. Go to usb.soyvalue.com and request a sample kit. Send some of your beans in and we'll measure their nutritional value. Take the guesswork out of seed selection. Grow the varieties that deliver top nutrition, compete better in the marketplace, and protect farm revenue. Do it all with one visit to usb.soyvalue.com.
Thanks to Luke Fleener, of course. We'll have Ann Meyer a little bit later on. The mayor of Fort Dodge will be here. Sam Clovis is next. And we look forward always to speaking with Sam Clovis. The St. Edmund football team will be in here tomorrow, or some of them will be, as they take on West Hancock. Should be, as it's been said several times this week, the biggest game of the year for the St. Edmund boys, and we sure want to wish them well. It's 3 o'clock. News is next. KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
President Trump goes on the attack on Lisa Brady, Fox News. He's railing against an effort to reframe how U.S. history teaches about slavery, the 1619 Project, calling it toxic propaganda and poison, and accusing Democrats of wanting to impose a new segregation, as he put it. Fox's John Decker is live in Washington.
Speaking at the White House History Conference at the National Archives, the president hammered home his law and order message, criticizing the so-called radical left for, in his words, trying to divide Americans by race in the service of political power.
The goal is the same: to silence dissent, to scare you out of speaking the truth, and to bully Americans into abandoning their values, their heritage.
The president also saying that the left has launched a violent assault on law enforcement and signing an executive order to establish a presidential commission to promote patriotic education. Lisa?
Thanks, John. Well, earlier, a new string of tweets about mail-in voting as the president gets hit with another Twitter warning label for a potentially misleading statement.
The president posting, because of the new and unprecedented massive amount of unsolicited ballots which will be sent to voters or wherever this year, the November 3rd election results may never be accurately determined. Blue text under the post links to articles detailing how mail-in voting is safe and secure. Fox